whatever it is you're afraid of is probably not going to kill you. And you will probably grow so much more from facing it than you will from letting it keep you on that trail. I wrote out the words 2017 for two reasons. One, this font that I have doesn't have numbers. That's just the truth. And two, because 2017 was a very long year, and I want to paint a picture for you on what that year looked like for me. And sorry about that. I thought I could move it, but I can't. So I was 39 years old. I turned 39 in 2017. At that point, like I talked about finance, I told you I'd saved $0 at that point in my life. I was competing with everyone. My business was going really well, and I was very head down in my business, and the numbers looked really great. And but I was competing with every single one of you in the room for attention, for clients, for social media followers, for customers, for whatever, everyone. I would not have told you, but looking back, I can tell you that my mindset was so scarce that I couldn't even see what destruction I was doing to myself with that attitude. I was overweight, incredibly overweight and miserable. I was never sleeping. I was up, my husband can tell you, I was up until 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning to take a nap and get back up and do it again. And I called it work ethic. I called it something that was going to get me ahead and make me better, and all I had to do was put my head down for long enough, and then I could get up and breathe. So I wasn't sleeping. I had absolutely no boundaries with my team. I had no boundaries with my family. Everything came down to dollars and cents and how I was going to get ahead and how I was going to get ahead of somebody else. It was always a race to get ahead of somebody else. And I was completely tied and married to my phone. Now, I'm not going to sugarcoat anything and say I'm not married to that phone to this day, but something had to change. And I kind of got to a point where I knew I had to flip the script. And I know that most of you are probably in this room today because there's probably a script that needs flipped somewhere for you. Even though now I can say, over a year later, that I'm doing so much better, the vernacular has changed from having to make a change and from having to flip the script to keeping the momentum going and to keeping that positivity going. We were in a networking meeting the other day, and I made a comment, and everybody laughed, but I haven't been able to stop thinking about it. We talked about toxicity and toxic people, and how, and Erica mentioned how, you are the sum of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. And when I was thinking about that, I said, you can drink the toxic Kool-Aid or you can drink the positivity punch, and either way, people think you're kind of crazy. So it was something along those lines, but on what was said, but I haven't been able to stop thinking about it because there's a fear of being that positive person, and what even being the positive person, there's a fear in it, like what will people think? And so I want to take you on this little journey of some 15 things that I learned in 2018 and that I'm carrying on through 2019. And I have in your workbook, I've even started your notes, so you will write your notes in the way that they're meant to be written and not in the way that you think you're gonna. If you want to know what my top strength is, it's controller, I think, or something like that. But the point in that is I want you to focus on the things that can be done, the positive things that can happen, instead of, because what I found that I was doing is I was constantly focused on the things that I wasn't doing right, the way I wasn't showing up for myself, for other people, and it didn't matter how many times I talked about how I wasn't showing up for myself and other people. that wasn't what was going to change it. So I adopted this, this hashtag. There's two, and it's on a cup. One was, but did you die? Because, you know, people are really afraid of dying. And they think everything is going to kill them. Like standing up here, death. Investing money in a 401k, death will come to you. Starting a business, changing a job, getting outside of your comfort zone, you're going to die. Like literally your brain tells you you're going to die. It's literally like saber-tooth tigers and death. Like that's how it is. And so I just kept asking myself, did you die? And you're going to do the thing. So I set some big goals. But there were 15 things that I took at the end of the year. This is really cool for me getting to look back at these things, and I'm going to kind of go into them. And I can't say that I went into all of this with intention. I didn't. The intention was I was going to run a Tough Mudder. Do you guys know what that is? Okay, that was the intention. I was going to get myself healthy. A Tough Mudder, it's a 10-mile obstacle course race through literal shit. People say, would you do it again? No, because there was literal shit. Like feces in the mud. There's a lot of feces in mud. And that's what I learned mostly from that. But I was glad I did it. I'm glad I did it. And I would do obstacle course racing again, but not in the mud. And also I got electrocuted too many times. Legitimately electrocuted. And some people, when they get electrocuted, they run faster. Not me. I stop and get electrocuted more. So anyway, so yeah. Oh, it's true. I just stood there and got shocked. And it actually is giving me great anxiety to think about it. And actually, I ran out the other direction, which was further than if I would have just kept going. But anyway, so I'm not going to go over these directly. We're going to go over them step by step because I really don't want to go over. But I really want to, like my goal here is to inspire you. So please feel free if you have questions to ask them. And I'm going to give you my honest take on how this went. And this is the first time I've delivered this, so I'm really freaking nervous about it. I'm just going to get that out there too. So the first thing that I learned and that I want to implore on you is that you're overanalyzing the steps that it's going to take to get something done. This particular photo that you're seeing is at the tree line of Pikes Peak. My husband and I decided to hike Pikes Peak having no actual idea what we were doing. Pikes Peak is a 14,000 foot mountain, but when you're at the bottom of it, you really can't tell. It just says it's a 10-mile walk that way. So we decided to do it. We didn't acclimate to the elevation. We put on some backpacks. We just decided we could do that. And this was at about 10,000 feet, and this is where I started to die. Each one of the steps I was taking at this point were excruciating and painful, and there was so much further to go. It was terrible. But we get stuck in the steps that it's going to take to achieve our goals. And what I remember from this moment was I was already so far. We couldn't turn back. There was no turning back. The only way to go forward was stepping forward. And the steps were so damn slow. We get so stuck in what it's going to take to achieve our goals and what the next steps are going to be that we get that analysis paralysis. And it's probably the single most daunting thing that I see keeping people back and keeping them small, whether it's in their business or their personal goals. You have to understand that a step is a step. Every step counts. Every single step counts. The littlest, tiniest steps. But thinking about what step is best doesn't count, ever. We think we need to know all of the steps. And I think the one thing I was noticing, if you guys saw one of my recent social media escapades, I had my niece. My little 1-year-old niece, she's the cutest thing ever. She was great for my Facebook algorithm. Thank you, baby. But she's just learning how to walk and run. And she really has no idea that she can run, but it's not stopping her from the next step. And I think sometimes we have to take ourselves back to that childlike, like, you know, your babies aren't crawling, planning on walking and planning on running and planning on being president of the United States or wherever our kids are going to go, right? So it's important to just take the next step and see where that lands you. And you only know if a step is a good step after it's taken, which sucks, but it's true. So what I want you to write down and what I want you to think about with this is, what is your next step? And whether it's the smallest thing in your life, whether it's making a phone call or making that to-do list. Usually my next step is a brain dump. I don't know if you guys do the process of a brain dump. But one of the things that I stay in paralysis is all the stuff that's stuck in my head. All the things that I think I need to do, and how overwhelming it gets when it stays in my head. And I often find that once I write it all down, it's really not that terrible. And then I can actually prioritize and start to plan. But unless you get it out, and action is what it takes. And for me, that first action is pen to paper and getting the things down and out of my head. And then you can actually sleep, which is helpful. So you're not keeping yourself up. So the next point that I think I almost missed, and I would have missed it if it wasn't for another conference similar to this that I went to, and it was in really exploring that the joy is in the journey. This particular event of what's happening in this photo, and I don't know what I'm pointing at, is some friends after at the end of a long day after a conference, and I don't even know why we were all laying in the same bed. If you know me, that's not something I do. But these photos were taken, and I remember how hard we laughed and how much it hurt to laugh that hard. And it was a really stressful time. But, it was like good hurt to laugh that hard. Like my face hurt. We often say, when blank happens, then I can be happy. When I lose 20 pounds, when I start to feel better, when I'm making 6 figures, when I hit that big sales goal, whatever it is, then I can be happy. And that is a bold-faced lie. We tend to pour energy into things that don't pour energy back into us, which allows us to not find joy in the present. So I would encourage you to find where you're putting your energy, and to ask yourself, when you're putting energy into things, is it putting it back into me? Because if you're getting the energy back, it's joyful. That's when it feels good. But it's like for me, when you're pouring into a team member that's just negative all of the time, or your teenager, or the list goes on and on of the people that you pour a lot of energy in and you don't get it back. It doesn't mean that you're not going to ever pour energy into people that aren't going to give it back to you. But what it means is that you can start to focus on where your energy should be going. Where do you get it back? Where does it actually spark the joy? And for me, in all honesty, standing in this room and thinking, if one person goes home today and says, I changed my life because of something you said, I used to think that was the most cliche thing that people that talk to people. What am I thinking of?
Just
motivational speakers. I thought, what a cliche thing. Oh, one person, good for your one person. But the ripple effect of, one, I want 1 million. Did I tell you I was competitive? The ripple effect of what can occur when you allow yourself to find a little bit of joy every day, and pouring the right energy into the people and the things that are pouring it back into you. I don't know. You can't experience it unless you can't know it unless you experience it. And I think that was all I wanted to say about that. So, okay. So the next one is about managing your fear. There's so many things that we do that are so scary, and I don't know if you can see in this photo, but there is a pink rattlesnake in the middle of that trail. Now you see it? Do you see why I got within about 2 feet of that rattlesnake before I saw it? It yelled at me, is what I told my husband. The rock yelled at me. It was coiled up on the trail. This was at the Grand Canyon. Also something we did not know what we were doing and decided to do one day, but it did not suck as much as Pikes Peak. But these pink rattlesnakes have evolved to blend in with their surroundings, so they look like the rocks along the side of the trail. And they're very rare. Apparently seeing them is something to behold. People were really impressed when we said we saw a pink rattlesnake, and I wasn't impressed. Because if you notice around the trail, it's really thick with cactus. You couldn't walk around it. There was no, you had to wait and manage that fear. And didn't you throw a rock at it? Well,
Yeah,
kind of tossed it. Maybe if you thought about moving, that would be great. you're going to have to stop talking about your fears so much and start proving to yourself that your fears are mostly nonsense, because they are. We sit afraid of a lot of things and mostly in fear of judgment of other people and what they're going to say and what they're going to think. And I would be a liar to you right now if I said I didn't wonder if you all judged every that I said, or I didn't, or wondered, like, you know, I've overanalyzed everything, like, oh, I should have had music in the room, and I should have had this, and I should have had that, and I've already made a list. Literally, I have a list on my phone right now of things that I'll do different next time. And but if I would have let those things stop me from putting you in the room today, then you wouldn't be here, and you wouldn't get whatever it is you're supposed to get out of this today. Getting past the smallest fear pulls so much confidence into you that you can use as momentum. And getting past that dumb snake, oh my gosh, I was such a baby about it. And now, like, I mean, it's so funny that, the snake literally could have killed me. Like, the snake is not a liar, and unless you're literally looking a snake, a rattlesnake, a pink one in particular, directly, I mean, at least it's on brand, right? Just put that together. Unless you're literally looking a rattlesnake in the face, like, whatever it is you're afraid of is probably not going to kill you. And you will probably grow so much more from facing it than you will from letting it keep you on that trail. And actually, at that point, we probably could have turned around and would have almost gotten to our destination, but we would have missed the waterfall, which I don't have in this slideshow, but you should stalk my Facebook and see the waterfall. I want to talk about a board of directors. This is something that has been a repetitive message in the last couple of weeks. I heard it at 1 Million Cups. We've been talking about it at my Centersphere networking group, that you've got to have a tribe of people that you can go to and talk when you are working in some kind of business. You've got to have people to bounce things off of, especially, there's a lot of solopreneurs in here. But even if you're not, you've got to have people to bounce things off of. And what we end up doing is we focus so much on the people that just aren't our people. And so what I'm saying to you here is that some people just aren't your people, and it's time to get over it. Stop thinking about why they're not your people. We focus so much on changing people's minds to like us or to accept us or to believe in the same things that we believe in. And sometimes they don't. I remember I was selling skincare to a woman at a vendor show one time. And she bought a ton of stuff, and at one point told me that she was a veterinarian. And I said, oh, that's awesome. Our products are all cruelty-free and not tested on animals. And she said, oh, I actually really believe in animal testing, and put a couple of her products back. She didn't buy them all. And she had a long reason that I'm not going to go into today on why she believed in animal testing. But sometimes we assume things, about people, and then instead of just accepting that sometimes people aren't our people. Let the people that aren't your people belong to their people. They have people, they'll be good, you'll be good. And get responsible about tapping into the right people. Understand it's not personal. It's not personal when people don't connect with you. It's not personal when they're not aligned with you. It's not personal when they don't, when they look at you and they're like, why is she doing that crazy thing? But you have a board of directors to tap into. Sometimes it's your family, sometimes it's your friends. It's probably some people in this room. You're probably going to have to figure out who those people are, but tap into them. It doesn't mean don't drain on them. Don't call them every day and tell them all of your problems, but learn how to piggyback on people and give them an opportunity to pour into you. Okay, I hear this message a lot. I quote myself a lot. I enjoy that. Actually, I get Sarah to do it. She's better with the graphics than I am. But I often hear people saying, oh, you're not responsible for people's experience of your message. And I don't completely agree with that. But what I think is you are responsible for the integrity of your message. You're responsible for your message being true to who you are. You're responsible for your message being responsible and for being kind. And, you can't just cuss at people and be like, well, not my fault you took it that way. You know what I mean? I kind of want to be really, really direct about that. You're responsible for the integrity of your message, but you're not responsible for people's experience of it. And when it comes to business, I'm talking really directly to people that are business owners right now. The climate of social media, the climate of business is very noisy. And if you're not making your opportunity or your products or your services obvious, people are not going to see them. You have to start making it obvious about what you do, and you've got to stand really proud in it. You probably offer a better product or service than most of your competitors. And why isn't that obvious to people? We're so scared of people thinking that we're just trying to sell them something. Tell me how many apology letters you've gotten from Target. For real. How many? How many of you bragged on social media that you went in to buy milk and you spent $100? Told everybody about it? Your customers should be doing that with you. If you're not making your opportunity obvious or what you have to offer to them obvious, whether it's a product or a service, the answer is going to be no. Because there are hundreds of other people selling what you're selling, doing what you're doing, the service that you're doing. I don't care what you do. It's a crowded market. So what opportunity are you keeping from people? What aren't you being obvious about? What are you being sheepish about because you don't want somebody to think you're selling them? You're selling them. Everybody, you know what? You go to church, they're selling you. Everybody is selling something. And I think that's, stop assuming that people are so into you that they're seeing you. Like, you got to get in their face. A good hashtag helps. Logo helps, really good. Do that. So leadership. I often get asked about leadership. How do you develop yourself into a leader? How do you become a leader? How do you become somebody that wants to get up and do all of these things? And I want to be really clear about something. You have to get secure in leadership in order to grow. Sometimes you're just going to lead yourself. Sometimes you're going to lead a whole tribe of people. But you have to get secure in leadership. But that doesn't look like what somebody else's leadership looks like. It doesn't look like Erica standing up here in her leadership, or Rena's leadership, or my leadership, or anybody else that stands up in leadership. It looks like the evolution of you. The evolution of you starts where you are right now. It doesn't start where you were yesterday. It starts where you are right now. And it moves forward. You cannot compare yourself to what other people are doing. It does not grow your leadership. I should stop talking because that sounds like a good time to stop talking. But the evolution of your leadership starts where you are right now today. And I think you have to reset that clock every day. I know I've had a rough couple of months, actually. Did you guys know the Mercury in retrograde ends today? Yeah, I don't know what that means, but I was going to blame it on the conference if your lives start going a lot better, but in case it doesn't, it's the stars. But I've had a rough couple of months, and I've had to find myself, as I'm planning this, I'm like, I'm supposed to be this like empowering person and this leader and this person that's got it all figured out and all together, and we're all human beings. So it all restarts every single day. You evolving into the better self, and having that ability to look back on where you came from, even if it was just yesterday, or even looking back into my last few months and being like, this is all part of the story. It's okay. So I would like you to identify, when you're going through your workbook, whether you're doing it now or later, on how leadership looks different for you. Stop identifying how you need to be a leader like somebody else, and start identifying how leadership looks different for you. Because what you have to offer is so different. Grit is one of my favorite words. I think it's something that it's probably one of the things that put me apart from other people, but I think it puts everybody apart from other people, is the ability to tap into their own grit. We all have it. There's a book called Grit by Angela Duckworth. It's kind of a dry read, to be honest, but it's really insightful on how the science of grit works. If you like how brains work and things like that, it's amazing. This photo was taken at, what's it called? Manitou Springs Incline. It's a 1 mile incline up a mountain.
It's like 2,700 steps.
They're railroad ties. It used to be a train that went up this mountain to haul supplies up. We did this right before we climbed Pikes Peak. Like, we did that, and then the Pikes Peak Trail said 10 miles that way. We're like, okay, let's go do that. It's a terrible idea. I mean, it really wasn't. I'm really glad I did it. I've got great pictures at the top, but it was really hard. But tapping into your grit is what's going to get you to your goal. So one of the things that leadership comes to me all the time and says, people that are working on, how do I motivate my team? How do I motivate the people that I'm working with? How do I motivate them to sell? How do I motivate them to do more? You can't. Inspiration can come from external sources. You can inspire people. You can get yourself, and as a leader, you have to stand really tall, and I'm responsible for inspiring you. But I'm not responsible for motivating you. Motivation has to come from within. Here's the thing, it's easy. It's really easy to work when you're inspired and motivated. Good hair day, motivated, feeling good. It's very easy to work when you're inspired and motivated. Grit comes when the motivation and the inspiration is low or gone. That's when you have to dig really, really deep, remember why you're in it, and go through all this crap in your head. And grit is the only thing that will move you forward when those things are gone. So one of the things that I have to do often is remind myself on how I get gritty. I said, I like anybody that's making people feel like they can do better. And I want to live in a world where everybody's feeling like they can do better. I want to raise my daughters in a world where they feel like they can do better. And I want you to raise your sons in a world that way too, because my daughters are going to marry your sons. We're going to have that whole thing happening. No, nobody's getting married, sorry. The photo on the left is a picture that I took about a year ago. It was a really down moment. I was just getting back into, I'd committed to that stupid Tough Mudder that I told you about. Nobody told me about the feces, so I was not there. But I'd committed to it, and I slacked so hard on my training for months. And I finally got back down on the treadmill, and I took that terrible picture, and I made a long post about it, and it was really inspiring. But the thing that I was doing when I was thinking about, the reason I took that picture was I wanted to see myself at the finish line. And the picture on the right is about a year later. I have my Tough Mudder finisher shirt on, which I wear all the time. All the time. And I've actually had people in like elevators be like, hey, congratulations on your Tough Mudder. And I'm like, thanks. You don't know what went into that, but okay. But I had to picture myself at that finish line and being in a better place. You have to believe that you can do it. Whatever it is, you have to really, truly believe. You've got to envision yourself at the finish line. You've got to not accept anything else, and it has to be really clear. But here's the thing that can't be clear is probably the timeline. I would have told you I would have gotten to that goal or whatever in a much shorter time. How does it go, Erica? We overestimate what we can accomplish in 1 month and underestimate what we can accomplish in a year. We think we can lose 10 pounds in a month, but we don't want to spend a year losing 20. Well, we're probably not going to do either if we don't believe. So I remember when I started my direct sales company, or my direct sales journey, I sat there thinking about it, and I actually thought about one of the first people that probably joined Mary Kay. Because it's been around for a while. I've been to a lot of Mary Kay parties, and I was like, I wonder what kind of island she's living on and owning, and how many pool boys she has. This is what I literally was thinking, because that sounds really great to me. But I imagined what it would take to get to the place, to the top of a company, and that was the only company I really understood in any capacity, so that was where my brain went. And I was like, I can totally do this. It felt the same way as, I don't know if you guys know this, but 10 years ago, I bought a motorcycle on eBay, sight unseen. Never rode one. I just wanted one, and it was pink. There's the theme. If anybody wonders if this pink thing just started, no, this has been going on for a minute. But it showed up, and there was a really warm day in March. And I'd taken my permit test, which is only a written test, and is the only thing that you actually need to get out a motorcycle and get on the road is a written test. So I'd taken the written test, I had this permit, I just had to ride with other people. And it was a warm day in March, and I said, well, let's go get my bike. And these guys that I was riding with were like, oh, no, you can't ride again. I'm like, well, listen, if you guys can figure it out, I'll be all right. And I did, I rode it all day. I don't really know how, but it was just the belief that I could. I literally don't know how I wrote it. But when you apply belief to your goals and your dreams, your opportunities become endless. And I don't know how to give it to you other than saying you just got to believe it. I want to talk about a taboo subject that nobody talks about, and that is this subject of advantage. Some people have it easier, and that's life. Some people possess things that you don't to make their journey seem easier, and that's where I want to make the differentiation. It seems easier. You're seeing their highlight reel. Everybody has a backstory. I could tell you stories about my childhood that would make you think that I should still be living in destitute somewhere in a tiny trailer with holes in the ground, and honestly I should be a grandmother by now according to history. Where you come from doesn't have to determine where you grow. And focusing on other people's advantages in life does not help you. You have to focus on your strengths and your advantages because you have them. It's easier to see other people's because their highlight reel is so pretty on social media, probably because they have like logos and stuff that are all pink. Your advantage is something you probably already know you have, but you probably want to push it down because that seems egotistical or something. Advantage is not ego. And somebody else's advantage is only perceived. So you have two choices. You can focus on other people's strengths and differences, or you can figure out what your advantage is. And if you don't, you probably already know what it is. Like you might have to dig a little bit, or you might have to get really honest with yourself. Like it may be your creativity, it may be your ability to communicate, it may be your award-winning smile. I mean, people get a lot of places because they're cute. It's true. Your advantage is your advantage. You've got to figure out what yours is and go after it. So write it down. What is your advantage? The other elephant in the room. You can't take care of anybody else unless you're taking care of yourself. And that's something that my husband said to me when we first started dating. I got really mad at him because we were fighting in the morning, and he was going to the gym anyway. And I was like, what do you mean you're going to the gym? We got to get this worked out. I wasn't going anywhere. It was a circle situation. You know, you're in an argument. There was no working it out. It was just me wanting to fight. I'm good at it. Sounded like a good idea. And he told me, and he went to the gym anyway, and then I was mad because now he just like left my fight and went to the gym anyway. And he told me later, he's like, I can't take care of you or the kids or anybody else unless I'm taking care of myself. And honestly, that really made me mad. And it still does sometimes, because I think as women, sometimes we think we don't have that opportunity. Like men can do that. They can just go take care of themselves, but we do. And there comes a point when you just have to decide that you're going to take care of yourself. We often look in for a program or a coach or a diet or a keto or whatever. And I'm not saying that those things are bad. In fact, I think those things are all good. And I think you have to find whatever it is that your thing is that's going to get you to your health and wellness goals. It may be hiring a coach. It may be keto or whatever. But you already know where you're falling short. It's time to get honest with yourself about your health and wellness. And I'm going to say this ebbs and flows and goes back and forth. It's not always going to be good. I can roller coaster like it's nobody's business. But you have to go after what you need. You know you got to drink the water or call your therapist or hit the gym and nourish your body. And you know you got to do it properly. And sometimes you just got to get honest with yourself and saying, I'm really doing a terrible job at this. And that was kind of where I had to get to and say, I'm really having a terrible job at this. And my husband and I both spent all of 2018 really getting gritty and recognizing where we were falling short. And a lot of things came into play and change. And I miss being drunk on Wednesday nights sometimes, I'm not going to lie. Or Tuesday through Friday as it was. But when you make those changes, like the weight that's sitting on your shoulders every day goes away. So tap into that that network and figure out what it is that you need to do to take care of yourself and stop making the excuses. So I want to talk a little bit about starting over. This is a picture from the end of 2017 and then on my 40th birthday at the end of 2018. There's about a year's difference. I don't remember how much weight I've lost, and it's not the same at this point even. It changes. But 20 years ago, I lost 88 pounds, which was a lot more than that. But since then, I've been a competitive power lifter. I've run half marathons. I've done obstacle course races, and I've been very athletic on and off. When I got to this point, the picture on the left in 2017, I was so mad that I had to start over again. That roller coaster had really, I just thought that ride was over. I remember actually the day I saw that photo, I posed for that picture. That was in California, I think. I posed for that picture, and I remember looking at it, and I was like, oh, I can't even post this. I can't believe I look like that. And you may regret what it got you to the point of having to start over. And I'm not talking about just health and wellness here. It could be anything. It could be your business. Could be goals that you've set out for yourself. You may regret what got you to the place of having to start over, but you will not regret what it takes to start over. You will not regret starting over today and taking a year and making it better for yourself. I wanted to tell myself it was too late. I'd already given up. It was over. It doesn't matter how many times you failed. Staying stuck is the only thing that determines your failure. So you got to forgive yourself and identify where you need to start over. And I feel like this is something I do almost every day too. Especially when it comes to health and wellness stuff. I mean, you guys, I have such a hard time staying. My husband gets up every morning like clockwork at like 4:45, and he just zombies his way to the gym, and he does it. And I argue with myself every day. And some days the bed wins, and some days the treadmill wins. The treadmill just has to win a couple more times. That's it. It doesn't have to be more serious than that. I talk a lot about belief and consistency in business and health and wellness and whatever it is you're doing. Do not confuse consistency with intensity. Do not confuse consistency with intensity. You're not going to be on every day and all day. And you're not going to be 100% all of the time. Sometimes consistency means just getting your ass out of bed. It really does. And sometimes consistency means you go and run that damn Tough Mudder through the feces. That's what that means. Quote that, Sarah. So, you won't regret starting over. So where do you need to let go and start over? Where do you need to say, okay, it's time? So I want to tell you that was the day when I saw that picture that I decided to start over. That was in September or October of 2017. The picture, the sweaty picture, when I actually got my shit together and did start over, wasn't until March. I probably started over 10 times in between there. And I guess I want you to know that because it's not as pretty as it looks on social media. There was a lot of tears and things that happened in between. Releasing blame. You ever heard, for every finger you point, there's 4 pointing back at you? That was something I focused really hard on in 2018 and started taking responsibility for my own ish. No one can do it for you, whether it's your business or a health goal or a personal goal. Nobody can do it for you. And you've got to forgive the people that you're blaming your shit on. Your kids, your husband, your job, your circumstance, the amount of money that you have, all of that. You have to let go. And writing it down is probably the easiest way to let go. When Rena was talking in her session, and if you haven't had her session, you'll, spoiler alert. Oh gosh, it went. What were you talking about?
Negative thoughts?
Mm-mm.
Belief?
No, it'll come back. Hold on.
You're blaming your circumstance.
Yeah. Gosh, there it went. This 40 thing. Whoo-hoo! You guys, it is legit. It was like somebody turned a switch that day. It's like, okay, you're not going to remember anything, and it's just going to leave. And then you're going to be standing at a microphone with a camera on you. There you're going to be. But anyway, if I figure that out, I'll let you know. But releasing that blame, letting it go for, the people that you don't like. That's what it was. Talking about the people you don't like and finding gratitude about the people that you don't like. When she was talking about that, I went and looked at this slide because I almost added something to it, which probably would have helped me from the brain fart that just happened. But I was like, I really cannot think of somebody. I've just stopped blaming people. Like, people just are people. They're just who they are. And it's such a release to not have so much hate. Like, letting go of all of that hate. There's people I don't really, care for, but like, to say I just don't like somebody is just not part of my vernacular right now. And that's, I heard conversation where people were like, oh gosh, my list is very long of the people I don't like. And I was like, mine was too. So I would really like to invite you to release that blame, release that hate and guilt and feelings of just dislike for people. People are just people, like peopling inside their peoply heads, and it's okay. Like, let them do that. Okay, so this is literal feces on my face. You guys, I am not even kidding. It was that bad. But I want to talk about small wins. That was a pretty big win, in all honesty, getting that over with. Also, I have Invisalign, and the Invisalign was kind of new then, and so that was fun with the mud. I want you to know you're in this room for a reason. You're here for a reason. You're not here because you don't do things. You're not here because you're not in it. If business were easy, if doing what you're doing today were easy, everybody would do it. Most people go to a job every day and clock in and don't set goals. Like, I think about clocking in isn't the issue, but you go, whether you have a job that you do go to work at and you clock in, you're setting goals. You're not here because you're not setting goals. You wouldn't be here unless you were somebody that's trying to set goals and do better and do more. One of my sisters works for the city of Waterloo, and this is fine for her life. And I love my sister if she's watching. She enjoys the part of her job where she goes and she clocks in and she does her job and she clocks out, and then the rest of her life is where her priority is. That's what she enjoys about her life, and that's okay. That didn't work for me. It doesn't work for me. Even when I worked at a job, it didn't work for me. You have to start, though, celebrating all of your wins. We're so critical of ourselves. I have this list of all of the things that I need to do better for this event, and I need to make it a list of all of the things instead. Okay, not instead, in addition to, that went right. So if you start celebrating yourself a little bit more, what happens is you start liking yourself a little bit more, and then you start celebrating yourself a little bit more, and then this momentum thing happens, where your success, your celebration starts to drive your success, and then your success starts to drive your passion. And you get more excited about it when you're more passionate about it, and when you start to celebrate yourself, that high-fiving yourself. And like Erica said in hers, she said her son, when she started working with her son and talking about what he did right, before she talked about what he did wrong, now he says, Mom, are you proud of me? Like, shouldn't you ask yourself that before you ask yourself anything else? Hey, are you proud of me? Like, almost take yourself back to that childlike state. Recognize your wins and celebrate them, and write down where you need to give credit. And here's, it kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier about, and the notes, hold, because now about finding joy in the journey, and about if you don't put your message out there, nobody's going to hear it. So if you don't celebrate yourself a little bit, especially if you're in business for yourself and you do something awesome, you've got to talk about it, because nobody else will. And if they do, one of my team members said, I wish you would shout me out more for the things that I do. Okay, well, I have 800 team members right now. I have no idea how I would go about doing that. That sounds like a daunting task. But if I shout you out, your network has no idea who I am. But if you shout yourself out, Your network gets to be proud of you. Like everybody gets to become kind of like your mom, you know, or my grandma, if it is. People will laugh at you and they will doubt you and they will try to talk you out of doing things for your own good. I like to talk about that a little bit because if you're doing any kind of business for yourself, somebody's probably been a naysayer. Somebody probably said, "Who do you think you are, Rachel Hollis?" They're not typically doing that because they want you to fail. They're doing it because they don't want to see you embarrass yourself. They don't want to see you fall on your face. They don't want to see you hurt yourself. They're usually trying to protect you. But if you pay attention, more people will support you and buy from you and join you and celebrate you. But we're focused too often on the wrong people. We're focused on the one person. I remember a post that I did a while back that got like some crazy engagement. And there's statistics you can look at on your business page to see what happened when people looked at your post. And I could see that 5 people unfollowed me when they looked at that post. There was something like 14,000 positive engagements. And I was hyper focused on those 5. Why would they unfollow me? Why the hell would I be so hyper focused on those 5 people? Who cares? We have to start to learn to put our focus in the people that actually do want to support and buy from us and join us and do all of those things. And then show them all the gratitude. I shared this picture of my family because, well, I didn't have any evidence that I had family in my other pictures, so I thought I should do that. But I think it goes to, you know, your biggest supporters first. You'll elevate yourself to the people that support you the most. And you'll take yourself down if you focus on the people that don't. You'll take yourself right down to where they are and you'll put yourself in that same mindset. So who do you owe some gratitude to? And I would really encourage you to take time and reach out. I try to do it once a month and send thank you notes. I'm trying to be about a quarter as good as Syra is at it. Get on Syra's client list because you get some nice notes from her. But gratitude is, it's immensely important, and writing, like just showing a little bit of gratitude to people helps you understand where your cup is really filled from. And the last thing that I want to share is a simple sentence. The biggest hurdle I have, and I'm sure my husband can tell you, like the times I cry and the most is when I feel like I'm not enough. And it all stems back. Everything we have stems back from something that happened to us, usually in our childhood, or something that made us feel like we didn't have enough, or we couldn't be enough, or we couldn't do enough, or whatever it is our problem is. But for me, it was always feeling like no matter how hard I tried, it just wasn't enough to get ahead. And learning to accept that you are wherever you are, and your journey starts today, from right now, every single day when you wake up. Like that's your choice. And I want to encourage you to recognize that you're enough. Journal about it, talk about it, get your tribe together and take those 15 points that I pointed out and see how you can apply them to your life. Go through that worksheet that I painstakingly wrote out for you. and examine some of the stuff where you need to. But do me a favor and focus on the positive side of it, because it's really easy to allow yourself to focus on the things that aren't going well. Like Erica said in her breakout session, it's really easy to tell your kid no. It's really easy to say no. It's really easy to say not right now. That's even to yourself. But you're enough, and you can do it from right now.